Heading into this NHL season, there was a lot of talk about the Buffalo Sabres. Can they get back into the playoffs? Last season was a miserable end considering playoff tickets were already being sold toward the Christmas season. Around this time last year, Buffalo Sabres were at the top of the Atlantic Division and they would finish in the bottom 15 of the NHL standings. So, what happened to the Buffalo Sabres last year? And are we seeing parallels into this season? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe so we take a look at the Buffalo Sabres. So the Buffalo Sabres, is it time to panic yet for the Buffalo Sabres? It might be. And it doesn't look like there's going to be much room for a wild card spot at this point, considering how solid those top five teams in the Metropolitan Division are right now. So do the Buffalo Sabres really have a legitimate chance at the playoffs this year? Well, maybe. That's a tough question to answer just straight on. But looking at this team right now, looking at the past couple of weeks, there's definitely some reason for concern once again for the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres goals for right now, they have 111 goals for this season. They find themselves right in the middle of the pack with that. They find themselves 14th in the NHL in that category. But the really glaring stat, and there's been an issue for Buffalo for the past couple of seasons, is their goals against. They have given up 114 goals. That is 24th in the NHL. So basically, that's 7th worst in the NHL. Not a great stat there for the Buffalo Sabres. They've had plenty of issues with goaltending over the past couple of years, going back to when Robin Leonard was here with the Buffalo Sabres. Look when he went to the Islanders and now the Chicago Blackhawks, he has really turned his game around. How come, these guys can't find success in Buffalo? Ryan Miller was a very solid goaltender, but probably one of the best U.S. goaltenders over the past decade, some could argue. So, besides Ryan Miller, the stability in goal has been a little bit of an issue for the Buffalo Sabres. Carter Hutton has played fairly well. Linus Ullmark as well, kind of just, decent stats and not consistent enough. That's why they find themselves really giving up a lot of goals. They have some really solid defensemen on this team. Rasmus Ristolainen, who has struggled in certain stats like Corsi and things like that, but you look at the guy on the ice, and he is a beast. So that's a guy. Rasmus Dahlin, now into his second season in the NHL. Marco Scandella, Zach Bogosian. Plenty of defensemen on this team. Lawrence Pilot, a couple of guys throughout the lineup that the Buffalo Sabres, looking at this Sabres team, there was, that's the reason why there were rumors that Ristolainen may get traded, because they have so much defensive depth. They could afford to lose a guy like that to bring in possibly some forward help for the Sabres, and that's what really we're going to get into. Ralph Kruger actually said the other day, we need more from our secondary scorers on our team. There's definitely been some issues and a lot of issues with that. Obviously, Kyle Poso getting paid the $6 million per season that he will be getting for the next couple of years. He's been out with injuries. He actually had a really serious illness, so that really hindered him. So the Sabres just, a combination of bad luck, and what about Jeff Skinner? Where's Jeff Skinner been? It's really been the Jack Eichel show, who has 17 points 17 straight games with a point. He has something like 16 goals and 18 assists or something crazy like that. Just unreal stats for Jack Eichel over the past almost 20 games so far. But Curtis Lazar from the Rochester Americans. So hopefully the Buffalo Sabres can turn the tide a little bit with Curtis Lazar, but you're pulling strings there if you think Lazar is going to fill the role that Eichel and some of those other guys they lost in the other game against the Philadelphia Flyers, where they got completely beat down at home and embarrassed 6-1 to the Philadelphia Flyers. So the Buffalo Sabres definitely having some issues right now. They're mediocre in terms of their goal scoring. Obviously, not everybody could be in the top 10 for their goal scoring. That's fine. I think top 16, basically a playoff team, that's what you want. But that goals against really hurts them, and it's really been an issue for now a couple of seasons in Buffalo. And I wonder if there's, you always hear about Buffalo, right? You hear about all these guys, and I feel like I talk about it a lot, but the Buffalo Sabres, I think fans would agree with me in how frustrating this is. You look at the Buffalo Sabres, right? You have guys like Vanek who are very solid, and those, Danny Briere and Maxim Afinogenov and some of those guys that were here in the earlier 2000s, and that was a really solid team, but they really just, they were good, but they just weren't that good. Christian Ehrhoff, they were good, but they really were hoping for more from those teams and hoping for longer playoff runs, considering all the money that they spent at that time. And now you look at guys like Evander Kane, who couldn't get things done with the Buffalo Sabres, so they trade him. You look at another example, Robin Lehner. Robin Lehner was pretty much left for dead. They could have given him a restricted, he was a restricted free agent. They could have given him a qualifying offer, didn't even bother, let him go. I think that was the best decision for both sides at that point. Really, Robin Lehner was probably one of the laughingstocks in the NHL, one of the worst goalies in the league. And he was up for the Vezina last season with the New York Islanders, and he's continuing that campaign into this year and playing really solid with the Chicago Blackhawks. Ryan O'Reilly, didn't want to play hockey anymore in Buffalo, and now he won a Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues in the offseason, in last season, so with the St. Louis Blues. So there's definitely something up with the Buffalo Sabres, and I don't know if it's the culture of the Buffalo Sabres. Is it just because it's always snowing and raining up there in Buffalo? It's known to be like a little bit of a depressing city, but I don't know how, I've never been there, so I don't know necessarily how that goes. But there's definitely something in the water here, and the question is, where is it coming from? Jason Botterill, being the general manager of this team, coming over from Pittsburgh as an assistant, you would think maybe that would help. Ralph Kruger as the head coach, coming back over from Europe, really hasn't been anything great right now for the Buffalo Sabres. So you just wonder, what do the Sabres need to do to get this team back into the playoffs and really become a legitimate team once again? They really haven't been able to do that. Hopefully they could get that, back to their winning ways, hopefully soon. But right now, definitely disappointing with the Buffalo Sabres. And playoffs, is it a realistic thing? I think it could be. The only issue is, though, you look at Toronto. They fired their head coach. I think they're going to get better before, the end of the season. So I think they all get back into the playoffs. Do you really think Buffalo is better than the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Boston Bruins? I don't think so. You really have them in that category with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens, and you can make an argument that both of those teams are probably better than them by the end of this season. So really disappointing for the Buffalo Sabres. Hopefully they're able to get things going. Jack Eichel has been unreal. He's going to be up for an MVP by the end of this season if he keeps up what he's been able to do so far this season. He's injured now. Hopefully it's not long term, and hopefully some of those other guys are able to get things going. Casey Middlestat was sent down earlier this week, one of their budding prospects, a top 10 draft pick a couple years ago when the draft was held in Buffalo. He really isn't panning out right now. So what is going on with the Buffalo Sabres? And is it legitimate that they will make the playoffs this year? Let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below if you have not already. And thank you for watching, and have a great day.